Welcome to the podcast, which is all about the world of direct response. Are we on the air? I'm your host, Sean Wilsey, and for over 30 years, I've hosted shows on cable shopping networks, and now I want to be your guide into this world as we look at the ever-changing nature of the industry. If you are tuning in, listening for the Steve Sedahl Part 2 interview, he is patiently holding on line 3, and we will get to Steve probably in about 10 minutes, so if you just want to skip ahead to that part, that's fine, because we do have some other news that I'm going to cover here first. So probably about 10 minutes in or so, we will chat with Steve about some other shopping networks. And, of course, Let's Bowl, the show that really put him on the radar in a, national, worldwide way, I guess, on Comedy Central. So that conversation will start in about 10 minutes. First, though, the news out of Eden Prairie, Minnesota, the suburb of Minneapolis, where I worked for a lot of years. ShopHQ, for those that haven't heard, is officially done, over, finished, put a fork in it. On April 17th, they told their remaining employees, they called them into a meeting and said, go home. We're done. That's it. They will be paid through state laws. They have to give them notice, and so I think it's June when they're officially going to be done paying the remaining employees, and the remaining employees being maybe the key word there, because a lot of the employees, at least as far as the hosts go, they were contractors. They were 1099, so they weren't technically even employees. They were working as needed and getting paid for coming in, whatever amount that they were paid. I don't know what they were making near the end there. But so they're done. Their paychecks are cut off immediately. For the remaining employees, then they will have until June to get paid. And it's a sad turn of events. A lot of people are just shocked by this. I hate to admit I wasn't that shocked, only because the handwriting has been on the wall for a while. Am I surprised that it happened this quickly? Yeah, maybe a little bit. But again, I think there were just so many indicators that this was inevitable, probably sooner rather than later. And of course, a couple questions come to mind. What happens to those who were there, the on-air guests and vendors, and what went wrong? And I think we could analyze the what went wrong until we're blue in the face. One of the former on-air guests posted a rant on Facebook. Boy, you talk about burning bridges. He blew up bridges, strictly placing all of the blame on management and bad decisions on their part. I think probably even management would admit that, yes, some bad decisions were made, but they also inherited a lot of issues from the regime prior to them, which most would argue was a train wreck, and that regime inherited problems from the previous regime, and that regime inherited problems. Technological problems. I vividly remember when the company, this must have been 2000, changed their ordering system from whatever it was at the time, I don't remember what it was called, to this new system from Oracle. It almost took the company down. It was so badly set up. They never had a good order entry system to begin with, and it was basically a system intended for catalog orders, and now it was having to take volumes of orders all at once, and it was never designed for that, and they never fixed that. And that's why, to get information into the system from a technical end was a very laborious process, and that's why they had to have so many employees. Did they have to? Probably not. So it's not just a matter of bad decisions on management's part. They had a bloated system, an inefficient system, bloated base of employees, and I saw that coming for years there. It was just, and honestly, a lot of bad contracts. One of the biggest expenses a shopping network has is the on-air cost, and they inherited every time management changed. I will never forget one of the first things it would say in their town halls and their conference calls: we got to renegotiate these cable deals. We have to renegotiate these cable deals. They were always terrible. They were spending way too much money for airtime. So that impacted the bottom line, because it's not just what you see on air that impacts the sales, which is why I kind of find it funny. Everybody's so quick to blame management for all of ShopHQ's problems, yet they're so quick to blame all the hosts for QVC's problems. And I think there's blame to go around everywhere there, because there's a lot of internal things that you never see as a viewer that are impacting the bottom line of these companies. And so when you have inefficient operations, when you have way too many employees, when you have, well, and again, I think they would admit they lost Invicta, they lost Mackenzie Childs. That was strike one, strike two. That was a lot to lose. A lot of people complained about all the airtime Invicta got. Well, it was selling. And this regime, just as every regime I saw prior, tried to bring in new watch brands, and they never took off. And as I've said many times, I think Invicta will never be repeated. It was marketing genius what Invicta did. Let's call it what it is. Even if you don't care for the watches, they're great marketers at Invicta, and they were able to produce a following and something that no other watch brand will be able to do. So losing Invicta was a big hit for ShopHQ. The other thing that I guess, again, the contracts that they had, and rather than renegotiate some of these contracts, they just said, okay, you don't like our terms, bye, and cut the cord. That's like retail shutting stores. So when you lose the Comcast or the Spectrums or Time Warner, whatever the cable systems are these days, Dish Network, DirecTV, you've lost viewers, you've lost customers. So that was going to hurt. So I understand they're trying to go online only, doing it the way they did it. I've never thought that could work because you've got to direct people to you. QVC, by the way, is doing very well with their TikTok. I have heard from numerous sources they're doing very well with their TikTok. It's not going to replace their on-air broadcast anytime soon, but they're doing well with that because the cost is nothing to do that. In fact, I was up at 3 a.m. a couple weeks ago. Out of curiosity, went to look at QVC's live stream on TikTok. They had 350 people watching. 3 in the morning. They had 350 people watching some woman from her home sell shirts. It's like, wow, okay. That's impressive response. So I do have to hand it to them. ShopHQ trying to do it themselves, probably not the right move. I do not blame Manoj. Now, Manoj, again, was on this buying spree that included Sports Illustrated, and some would argue, well, that one failed. Yeah, and that was, again, a lot of things that were really out of his control with labor unions and things like that. So that's kind of a totally different beast here. I think what they inherited was a mess, and it was just too big of a problem. I don't think anybody could have fixed it. Now, I do think that had we turned back the clock, I don't know, maybe 10 years, at one point they were trying to be a luxury network, actually more than that, about 15, maybe 20 years, and I think that probably would have been the course to take. Go upscale, go luxury, be Nordstrom, be Neiman Marcus, really go upscale. Gem shopping. One of the little engines that could, streams along beautifully with very high-end jewelry and a very high-end customer. So there is some place for that. And maybe had ShopHQ stuck with that back when they were ShopNBC, that would have been the way to succeed. I don't know. But trying to duplicate, as I've said a million times, you can't be Gimbel's, Bloomingdale's, and Macy's. Now it's all Macy's. And you can't be ShopHQ, Home Shopping, and QVC. As I predicted 20 years ago. It's coming true now. It's all QVC. So they had to find their place. But history books are closed on that. I do say they should still be around. Shop at Home Network probably could have survived had they stuck to what they did well originally. And going back to the 80s, Shop Television Network, STN, that we covered on a previous show. There really was a place for them. Their format was different. And I think given more homes, it probably would have taken off. But again, history books are closed on that one as well, and that was literally decades ago now, so we will never know. So the final question about ShopHQ, what happens to the guests and the vendors? I know for a fact that some of the hosts are going to be doing other things. They haven't announced it, so I'm not going to announce it. I know Fatima, just as of the date of this recording, announced that she's going to JTV, so I can mention that one. I knew that was coming. And some of the other hosts have They're hooks in the water, and they're I think going to hopefully land somewhere. Vendors, it's wait and see. I know, again, a couple have places that they're talking to, and so hopefully they will land somewhere. The good ones will land somewhere. There's still a place for them. I got to admit, I'm impressed. JTV is taking up. That's Fatima. That's Kendi that they took. They've got Invicta. Michael Valatutti is there, and so they seem to be absorbing a number of the former ShopHQ hosts and guests. So we'll see if that trend continues, which could be great for them. Their advertising, I was shocked before the holidays. I was hearing commercials for JTV on the radio. So good for them for getting out there and advertising. That's something that they all should be doing. Amazon, you wouldn't think they need to advertise. They advertise, so why wouldn't you get your name out there? But anyway, So as I said, 10 minutes, there we go. That was 10 minutes on that. I could probably do an hour, but we just start repeating. So it's a lot of things went wrong. They did some things I think that were smart, but in the end, it was too little, too late. And so long to ShopHQ. But Steve is patiently holding here on line 3, so let's get back to Steve Sedahl. Many of you I know are waiting. We'll get to the conversation about Let's Bowl and how that came to be, because I remember living through that along with you, Steve. That was an amazing time. We'll get to that in just a second, because we still have, even though we've talked about Steve's working at other shopping networks already, CVN, ValueVIsion, later ShopNBC, which is, of course, the one that became ShopHQ. There's some other places we need to discuss. There have been 2 other shopping networks that you've been involved with, and I want to get into these because I never give them any time. The first, and I think I have the order right, was WSS. Will you explain what WSS was and how that came to be?
WSS, Worldwide Shopping Source, and again, it was, money, obviously. In this case, it was, names aren't important, but that was what the whole thought was. And so some of us got together, and then that I was living in Los Angeles at the time, and then they reached out to me, and I went back to Minneapolis to accept the position there, where I was running the internet for that Worldwide Shopping Source, and suddenly people from ShopNBC were coming over.
Yeah. It was like the HSN people going to CVN. It's
right. Yeah.
ShopNBC lost so many hosts and core hosts to WSS.
And like Tim Temple, Karen was there.
Yep.
There were a bunch of folks.
Yep.
And again, there was money behind it, but it didn't last. That was the problem. Mm-hmm. And they were very generous. I mean, I was there maybe 6 months, and I got a 20% raise. I thought, well, this is great.
Wow.
3 weeks later, the CFO said, would you mind giving that back? I said, no, I don't mind.
What? Silly. I never heard that story. Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that was with a lot of people. And most of us were willing to do that just because it let us last on the air for a little longer. And then, as that was kind of happening, one of the other investors had a watch. You'd appreciate this. Had a watch collection that was unbelievable. Mm-hmm. He specifically got me to list this stuff on eBay and sell it and give the money, obviously, because he was selling these watches were $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. And that money would go to operating expenses to keep us on the air.
What? Seriously?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, nobody knows these stories.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I've never heard this one. Because the network, if I remember the timeline correctly, there was about, because I think like Karen had a 6-month non-compete or something, and so she had 6 months from the time she basically quit her job on the air until WSS started up. Do you remember what was that? Spring of what? 05? When was that?
Yeah, I think so. 4 or 5 maybe. Yeah, I think that sounds right.
Okay. So, again, same thing. They start up, and I remember vividly it was live 24 hours a day. And and they tried to do things differently, like graphically. I remember it was set up differently. Yes.
They were trying to reinvent the wheel, and sometimes you just can't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand innovation. I understand wanting to be different, but I think some of their ideas in terms of graphics, they weren't really that good.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. I love Mark Dante. Don't get me wrong.
I do too. Yeah.
It was his thing, but it just wasn't good.
If anybody wonders, just look on the YouTube videos that I've posted of all the networks. It's what we call the L graphic. It's just the information on the left, phone number on the bottom, and it's been that way forever. And WSS tried to straight line across the top, straight line across the bottom, kind of a letterbox look, and it just, customers aren't ready for change. I don't know how many times at all the networks I've been at, you change a graphic, and the emails come pouring in immediately. I don't like this. I hate this. Go back to the old one. It's just, there's something about changing the way the graphics are set up that gets people irate.
Yeah. Yep, you're right. Absolutely.
How did
Customer's always right.
No, exactly. The way WSS ended was kind of abrupt. I mean, I think y'all knew that maybe there was some water getting into the boat here, but take us through those last days.
Well, once again, I left a little bit early because I knew what was happening.
Smart. Yes.
But my roommate was a VP there.
Yes.
And so it was blow by blow. And then, I mean, it was like an arbitrary Thursday. My roommate comes home and he's done. Just like that.
Wow.
And they didn't, that was pretty abrupt.
And weren't they, again, parallels to what happened before? You mentioned how the first days of ValueVision were out of the old PBS building. Didn't y'all have the old Fox building in Minneapolis?
We were in Northeast Minneapolis.
Right.
Was that a TV studio?
Well, I thought Fox 29 had been there when 29
you're right.
had the Fox affiliate.
Yes, you're right. Absolutely. And then they knocked out some walls and made it bigger.
Right. So, because I was always told, you got to see this place. It's amazing. But it's Charla Rhines and I, because I remember Charla said, because she had left ValueVision to go when Finger Hut was going to start something up, one of the few times,
right?
Because they've tried several times, and she was gone for a year. It never went anywhere, and so Charla said, "There's no way I'm going to start up something new." And so I kind of listened to her advice. It's like, yeah, you're probably right. It's like we got the Peacock behind us. What can go wrong? Well,
yeah. Oh, there's stories there too.
Yeah, of course. But this was not the end of you starting up a shopping network, was it?
No.
What was the next one? Because I honestly...
next one was... it was kind of a shopping network.
Well, yeah.
Excuse. It was called Atomic Shopping.
Yes.
And that was a reverse auction.
Yep.
And it was underfunded from the beginning and stayed that way and ultimately went out of business. I don't think we ever made a ton of money. It was an interesting concept, and I know it's a concept that works other places in the world, but
very much
not here. Yeah, but certainly not here.
How was it even?
And perhaps it was just so. I shouldn't be so demeaning. It was difficult. I mean, we'd put an item on the air. Whatever it is, a Stanley coffee cup, say.
Sure.
And it would start at $50, and then it would start to go down. Well, we already knew what the bottom price was, and people weren't buying it. So there was a guy moving the price, behind the scenes, making it look like we were selling.
So the price would just, like on a constant, because I did a show briefly called Bid Bash at ValueVision.
Similar.
So, and I remember watching Atomic Shopping thinking, wow, this is very similar to what we did with Bid Bash. So the price over, 2-3 minutes would go down?
Would go down, and usually 50% or something like that. And but the quality of the merchandise, this is where the problem was. They didn't have any money. They couldn't buy, high-end stuff. They were buying a lot of closeouts.
Right.
And sometimes those closeouts were closed out for a reason.
Yes. That's a good point. It's a very good point. One of the reasons I had to bring this up is because a lot of these names that we've worked with, it's been through multiple networks.
Right.
And there is, and Steve, we got to be really careful with this, but there is a clip on YouTube, you mentioned Mark Dante, and a caulking gun. You know what I'm talking about.
That was Atomic Shopping.
Yes.
Yeah, that was it. And that was Mark, sure. There are some YouTube clips there that were very funny.
Yeah. What was this his idea to do, or where did this idea come from? Okay.
Well, it just came from Atomic Shopping. It started out really poorly, and then we sort of pulled it together. And but we were starting. It's like I'd be out there with Carmela, and it was pretty much she and I, and I I'm a goofball.
Yes.
And she was more serious about selling.
Yes.
Quite frankly, I didn't think we were going to sell anything, so I didn't care. So it was about being fun and funny and entertaining. And then one of the investors liked it, so he said, "Keep doing that." So then we ended up getting YouTube clips. There's the one where it's Carmela and me, and it's a chocolate fountain.
Oh, I haven't
you
seen that
this?
one.
Oh, this is great. Yeah, it's a chocolate fountain. And I said it was coming around Super Bowl time, and I said, well, yeah, you could actually put barbecue sauce in there, a barbecue fountain. And she goes, yeah, that might be good. I said, yeah, and you could put, those little wieners in there. and she said, what? I said, well, and anyway, I got her to say little wieners.
That was the goal. I love it. Yes.
Yeah, that was the goal. And that one lives on.
Again, I firmly believe there is a place for this still in television shopping. The silliness, the weirdness. I think that's one of the reasons I like working with Dan Dennis so much is, again, as I was telling you off air before we started this, he has no filter and never has. And so it's just, he would love a moment like that. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but I definitely think there's a place for it. One thing that is not necessarily a blooper that I have to ask you about, and I don't want to get into Let's Bowl. And it's been an eternity. There's always blooper tapes that just are kind of like internally circulated among employees that will never see the light of day on YouTube. And I have one of those that Dave. What was his? Shoot! It was an over.
His middle initial was E. Yeah, David.
Yeah. Lowry David E.
Lowry David E.
Great
he's
guy.
Passed away too.
Oh, don't tell me that. I did not know that.
Years ago, actually.
Oh, I am sorry to hear that. Great guy.
Yeah,
and he would accumulate bloopers. And on one of the tapes that I have, I think it was your birthday. How pissed off were you when you got a pie in the face on your birthday?
Oh God, I tried to be mad and then I couldn't.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay.
I mean, it ruined the tie.
Yeah.
But when it's all said and done, it made for good TV. So okay.
Okay.
It was Rick Van Bergen. Rick Van Bergen is the one that did it.
Rock and roll Rick. Yes.
Rock and roll Rick, and Rick, by the way, was a student of mine.
I did not know that.
When I was teaching at School of Communication Arts. Yeah. Oh, I had a bunch of students. That ultimately worked there at not only at ShopNBC, but certainly at ValueVIsion along the way, and I mean all of them. Yeah, ValueVIsion in particular. It was like a pipeline.
Oh my God. Okay. Now that in fact that's almost the perfect segue because we talk about how people that we've worked with in the industry we wind up doing other projects with. The one that most people, let's be honest, probably would recognize you from if they were watching Comedy Central around 2001 was a TV series called Let's Bowl. Now, I'm going to let you explain the concept of Let's Bowl.
Let's Bowl, game show, two people bowling to settle a grudge, a legitimate grudge. We had shows, we had a husband and wife. She wanted him to get a vasectomy. He wanted no part of it. They bowled to settle it. She won. We paid for a vasectomy.
I love it.
I mean, so it's just silly things like that. And another one, father son. The son wanted tattoos. Dad didn't want him to get them. The kid won. I think it was about $1,500 worth of tattoos.
Really?
That we, yeah. God. Yeah. Just silly things. There was another one about an alarm clock. There was two strippers. It's fun stuff. To me, the best part of Let's Bowl was the what they called inside bowling, where it was my partner Rich Kronfeld who played Wally, and he was. I'll tell you what. You want to talk about a guy that is so funny, is so intense, is so totally loses himself into it, and to try to be the straight guy to him, it's a challenge. But Rick, Rich is amazing. Just a super talent.
How did the show begin? Let's explain the origins of this because it was a connection that you had at CVN.
Well, yeah, Tim Scott, who was one of the original hires at CVN. That's where I met Tim, and then it was some years later that he reached out to me and he said, "Well, you come and audition for me." I said, "What? Audition? Yeah, just come in." So I went into this audition, and I did. He said, just improv something. And I did. I actually recreated my drill sergeant in basic training. Tim thought that was pretty good.
Did you have an acting background?
A what?
Did you have an acting background?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, then he says, okay, we're going to do this show called Let's Bowl. Let's do it. And I went to, he set up the pilot. It was at Bryant Lake Bowl in Minneapolis. We got there, it was early on a February, cold day, cold time, and everybody's there kind of setting everything up. And Tim and I kind of cross past each other in a hallway, and he stops and he points at me and he goes, "Your name's Chopper." Okay. Backstory? Make it up. Okay.
All right, great.
Chopper it is. And if you notice in Let's Bowl, we wore blue blazers.
Right.
And our names were on them. But mine didn't say Chopper, it said Steve. Because the Chopper happened after the jackets were made.
I never noticed that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's well, you know, we got the jackets at a thrift shop.
Yeah.
You know, Deborah Fiscus was our customer. She did a great job. So Tim Scott was there, part of the original at CVN. And then, well, there were others. Rob Mappleback. I don't know if you remember Rob.
Yes, very well.
Sure. He was a student of mine as well. And he was involved with the show. And then once we all, you know, we did this locally for a couple of years.
Right.
And ultimately, Tim and Rich were really the brains and the energy behind it. And they would try to buy local time, and they did. We got in front of Budweiser. So, you know, radio stations every spring, the radio stations come and pitch Budweiser so they can get a hunk of that money, right? That advertising money. Mm-hmm. Well, we got an audience in front of Budweiser. We invite him in. Rich comes up with this slideshow from World War II, literally slides from World War II. We're putting on this whole thing, and you know, we had queen pins. So we had two ladies who would encourage the contestants, right? They would walk, you know, kind of like Vanna White watching the bowl go by. It came up rather quickly. We had a stand-in queen pin. It was Melissa Peterman. You know who she is?
Wait a second. Yes, it took me a moment. Why do I know that name? Yes, she's very well known.
Yeah, she was on Reba. She's on the new show with Reba.
Yes.
She's a Minneapolis person. She's married. Well, her husband was the original on Let's Bowl. Her husband was the original Ernie, right? So we had Drew Jansen playing keyboard.
Right.
He was Ernie for the whole show. But for the pilot, we had him, and his name was Ernie. He had the jacket, said Ernie.
Oh my gosh.
Drew never had a jacket.
Right.
When they redid the show, they did away with his part. We gave Drew the jacket, and that's how that happened.
Oh my gosh. I just caught, she's got a game show now too that she's doing. I just caught on Fox the other day. So now I know exactly who you're talking about. So, because I remember the show was, I think it was on Channel 41 for a while. It was on Channel 11 for a while. I mean, wasn't it on, it was like after Saturday Night Live for a while. It had a real good position.
That was a good lead-in, yeah. And then Tim and Rich, you know, had pitched the show to HBO, had pitched the show to Comedy Central, and pitched the show to Comedy Central 3 times before they finally said yes.
Wow.
But they did say yes.
Yeah. And then, so you've got picked up now. You're on Comedy Central, and so what's the next step? I mean, you got episodes because they didn't do rerun the old episodes. They wanted new episodes.
No, we had new episodes. Yeah, we
much
shot,
bigger budget too, I'm sure.
Not a lot.
Oh, really?
Oh no, they were cheap.
Oh,
you know, Comedy Central was cheap. You know, it was. I mean, you know, we had quality equipment, but I mean, nobody got rich. I'll say that. Which was fine because most of us were there for fun. And once we got to Comedy Central, then we did the shows, 2 different bowling alleys, one in White Bear Lake, the other in South St. Paul. And the opening of the show was Starlight Lane, Starlight Bowl.
Oh, I remember that. Yes,
on 27th Avenue in South Minneapolis. Well, that's where the opening of the show was shot, and we never did a show there ever.
Yes. I remember when the tapings were happening because one of my friends, Kevin, was involved somehow with them. I can't remember if he was working them or what, but
yes, I think I remember. Yeah, he was working.
Yeah, and
wasn't he like a PA?
He might have been because he was working. He might have been my floor director at ValueVision or ShopNBC, whatever it was at the time. And I never made it out to any of those tapings. But because you shot them all fairly quickly, didn't you?
Well, yeah, we shot 10 episodes in 3 days. Well,
Yeah.
2 days really, but 3 days for say it.
Yes. And how did the show do?
The show did well. I mean, we went originally airing after the Man Show on Comedy Central. That was a good lead-in.
That was a popular one back in the day, though. That's, yes.
Right.
Jimmy Kimmel,
So we
I
had
think.
Jimmy Kimmel and Adam Carolla.
Yeah.
And so we did that the first season. Then they renewed us for season 2, and they kind of moved us around a little bit. And then, of course, nothing happened after that, and we all went on our way.
Right. Do you keep in touch with
But
him?
I mean, yeah, I do. Yeah, oh yeah, I'm in touch with Tim, with Rich. Rich, by the way, has created an electric bike. It's called the Rat Racer. I think he's renamed it, but the original name was called Rat Racer, RHATT. If you look on YouTube, you'll see it. It's amazing. He's a genius. Rich is the total genius.
I had no clue about this.
Yeah,
Really?
and he created this thing. So it's a street legal 3-wheel bicycle car, and as it goes, it charges it up. So you can get up to 50 miles an hour in this thing.
Oh,
And you never
my
run out of
God.
charge.
I had no idea about this.
Yeah. But his father, he comes by it naturally. Rich's father worked at 3M for years, and the old days of videotape, when the videotape you put a cassette in a machine and it would wrap around the heads.
Oh,
right?
gosh, yes. I had to take a VCR apart several times to deal with that. Yes.
Sure. And it was a spinning head.
Yep.
Rich's dad created that.
Oh, come on.
I'm serious. Go to the Pavlik Broadcast Museum. You can
Wow.
read the story. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. He's such a very talented. There's something I've always classified as a Minnesota sense of humor, and I think he epitomizes it so well.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And so that's why I guess I'm so surprised to see this other side of him that is just fantastic.
Right. Well, who else worked on the show? Was one of the main writers was Nick Schenk.
I did not know that, or maybe I did and I'd forgotten that.
Nick, of course, is the guy who wrote Gran Torino and
Yes.
worked with, and also the Judge. He also co-wrote the follow-up to The Christmas Story. Anyway, Nick's great. I mean, couldn't have any better writers than that.
Do you still have any of the souvenirs from the show? Any props? Anything from the set?
Yes, I do. Actually, I have got a smiley face bowling ball in my office.
Yeah.
That came from that. And I still have the blazer, believe it or not. And I mean, over the years, there's a pretty active Facebook page for Let's Bowl. And over the years, people have reached out and, I have given away stuff. I mean, people are kind enough and they write and they say nice things. And I had 2 different ties. I sent somebody one of my ties. I sold one of my blazers because he insisted on paying for it. I said, all right.
Wow.
And this guy has all has Rich's, Drew's, and mine.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
There's, excuse me.
Oh, and the blazer still fits. I'm proud to say.
That's a good sign that you're doing something right. There is this loyalty to this show because I'm part of that Facebook group. That again, I make the comparison to another Minneapolis show, Mystery Science Theater. It's just the fans of this show are diehard fans.
Very much. And I mean, like I said, and they're active and they're still out there. And I appreciate it every time that I see something or hear something.
It's hard to
a
believe.
few years ago, the City Pages did a story about it and, it's kind of dug it up.
Wow.
And I'm proud to say I'm part of a book on bowling. What's it called? I've got it here. It's just about bowling history. Anyway, and they chose Let's Bowl to be a piece of that. Yeah, that was a local guy, too, a local writer. It's very fun.
Well, it just dawned on me. I just looked over my shoulder here because in my studio, if you've seen the picture that I post on my little icon of the studio, I have over my shoulder pictures of autographs of people that I've worked with. Peter Frampton, Bob Eubanks, ZZ Top, Frankie Avalon. I don't have the autographed picture of you and Rich from Let's Bowl because when I joined the fan club, I got an autographed picture of you and Rich, little black and white photo. I need to get that up on my wall now. So I know I have it somewhere. Every once in a while I'm cleaning and I see this picture, so I know it's around somewhere. So I got to find that.
Yeah, I found I dug up some posters I was looking for something, and when you're looking for something, you unearth other things.
Exactly.
So that's what I found. Found a couple of posters that I hadn't seen in a while. That's kind of fun.
Yeah. No,
And look, I'll look around. If you want a picture, I'll send you a color picture if you want.
I like the black and white. There's a drama in the black and white.
All right.
A quick story from myself in Let's Bowl, because a friend of mine was one of the contestants on the local version, and at the taping, where were you taping the local ones? It was north somewhere.
We taped it at Fridley. We taped at Fridley, and then we taped in St. Paul at Stallhouse Lanes.
Might have been that one. I can't remember now. But it was one of the local shows they were taping. Yeah. And a friend of mine was going to be the contestant, and another friend of mine just came along. And Tim walks up to me and asks, "Can you play the keyboard?" Because Drew wasn't there for whatever reason for the show. And I said, "No, I can't, but my other friend here is an organist for a church." And so he wound up being the fill-in
keyboardist. I remember that.
After the taping, we went to in Ember's Restaurant, if people remember Ember's Restaurant there.
Oh, yeah.
And the first thing my friend says to me was, "I could have killed you." So I just volunteered him, and Tim didn't even ask any questions. Like, okay, great.
That was it. That's Tim. That's classic Tim.
But he did it, and he did a fine role.
So what was the contestant? What were they doing?
It was I can't remember. Matt was my friend. And,
Matt. Okay, yeah, I remember the episode.
Yeah, and I can't remember the name of the guy that he was playing against. Matt won, and this was back. Because that's why I asked about the budget, because you were paying for tattoo-roos and all that. Matt won an oil change as his prize.
Yeah, right.
So
that was pretty darn generous.
Yes, it was.
Because we all kicked in for those prizes.
Is it such?
My favorite though was the 5-pound can of tuna.
I don't remember that one. Oh, that's great.
I've never seen anything like it.
In all these episodes, for anybody that's listening to this and maybe is not familiar with the show, I think almost all the episodes are available online in various forms, so you can go and look it up, because it really, especially, it's kind of, again, like Mystery Science Theater. There were the local Channel 23 episodes, and then there were the Comedy Central ones, and you can see the difference between them. So you want the local ones.
Because we were using cable access equipment for the locals.
Yeah, pretty much, yes. But I think that's the thing that I loved about it, is when it finally hit comedy, because nobody was rooting for y'all more than I was when it finally hit Comedy Central. It's like, it's like watching your baby grow, and it's like now they're in the big leagues and doing amazing things. So the success that everybody got was so well deserved. Again, Steve, I want to again thank you. Was there anything that we didn't bring up that you wanted to discuss?
Well, I don't think so. We covered a lot of ground.
I know. I'm trying to squeeze this in. This is obviously a lot to cover here. So I want to thank you for spending the time so we could go over a lot of television shopping history, and then Let's Bowl, which is please go online and check those episodes out. I guess I should ask this. What are you up to these days?
I'm working for a company called Broadcasting Experts, and I host and produce and write the content for financial shows. The shows that you hear on the radio on the weekends with financial advisors talking about retirement. That's what I do.
That's interesting. See, that's something that 30 years ago I couldn't have cared less about, but these days I'm very interested in. So.
Yeah, I talk about retirement every day. It's kind of depressing sometimes. And other times it's very exciting. Exactly. It just depends on the day.
I'm sitting here as we're recording this. I'm watching my stocks go down. So it's like, okay, I'll be working forever. So, again, Steve Sedahl, thank you so much.
My pleasure, Sean. Always fun.
Great guy, Steve Sedahl. Good friend all these years, so it's great to catch up with him. And thank you to all of you for listening. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You never miss a show. Plus, you can listen to the archive of past shows. I hope you'll check me out on all of social media, Sean Wilsey. Instagram, it's just SWilsey. Thank you for downloading this edition of Are We on the Air?
Yes, I know, Travis. That's why we give such bargains.
Copyright 2025, King Bobby Productions, all rights reserved.